The great chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room park Jisoo had ever seen. It stretched upward for nearly a kilometer, with platforms rising in circles around a central stage. Each platform held delegates from a different species, and there were 47 of them in total. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Jisoo's mind struggled to understand what she was seeing. She stood alone on humanity's platform, which was placed at the lowest level, closest to the floor. This was not an accident. In the 18 years since Earth had joined the galactic community, humans had always been given the worst seats, the smallest trade deals, and the least respect. They were the newcomers. They were the children. And today, they would learn just how little the galaxy thought of them. The Velnorian High Speaker floated at the center of the chamber. His body was made of living crystal, blue and white light pulsing through his form like blood through veins. His voice did not come from a mouth but seemed to emerge from the air itself, translated instantly into every language spoken in the room. "The vote has concluded," he announced. 43 species have voted in favor. 4 have voted against. Earth and humanity are hereby sentenced to containment. Jisoo felt the words hit her like a physical blow, but she did not let her face change. She had trained for this moment. She had known it was coming. For months, whispers had spread through the diplomatic channels that Earth was becoming a problem. Humans learned too fast. They asked too many questions. They took technologies that other species had, perfected over thousands of years, and somehow made them better within a single generation. The galaxy was afraid. The barrier network will be constructed around the Sol system. The High Speaker continued. No human vessel will be permitted to leave. No external vessel will be permitted to enter. Trade will cease. Communication will be blocked. Earth will be protected from its own potential. Protected. Jisoo almost laughed at the word. They meant imprisoned. They meant forgotten. A delegate from the Keth Collective rose on its platform. The Keth were insectoid beings, their bodies covered in hard shells that clicked when they moved. "This one wishes to add," it said, "that humanity should be grateful. Other species that showed aggressive expansion potential were simply destroyed. We are showing mercy." Mercy. Another interesting word choice. Jisoo pressed the button that requested speaking time. The High Speaker's crystal body flickered, and he gestured toward her with something that might have been annoyance. "The human delegate may speak." Every eye in the chamber, every sensor and lens and organic receptor turned toward her. Jisoo took a slow breath. "I want to make sure I understand correctly," she said, keeping her voice calm and clear. "Earth is being exiled not because we have attacked anyone, not because we have broken any laws, not because we have harmed any species or violated any treaty. We are being exiled because you believe we might become dangerous in the future." The High Speaker's light pulsed. "That is correct. Prevention is preferable to cure. And in making this decision, you did not consult Earth. You did not warn us. You did not give us the opportunity to address your concerns. Your concerns were irrelevant. The safety of the galactic community takes priority over the feelings of a single species." Jisoo nodded slowly. Around her, she could feel the satisfaction radiating from the other platforms. They had one. The dangerous humans would be locked away, and the galaxy could continue as it always had, unchanging and unchallenged, for another 10,000 years. "We understand," Jisoo said simply. "We accept the Council's decision." She saw surprise flicker across several alien faces. They had expected anger. They had expected threats. They had expected the aggressive behavior they claimed to fear. Instead, Jisoo bowed slightly, a gesture that humans had taught the galaxy meant acknowledgement and respect. Then she turned and walked off her platform, leaving the chamber in silence, 12,000 light-years away. Admiral Kim Do-yan received the transmission in real time through humanity's secret quantum communication network. He was sitting in his office deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that officially did not exist. The walls around him were lined with screens showing data from across the Sol system. Information that the Galactic Council had no idea humanity could gather. He read the message twice, then looked up at Captain Lee Sujin, who stood waiting by the door. "It's done," he said. 43-4. They've given us 30 days before the barrier activates. Sujin's face remained calm. She was a small woman with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had served under Do-Yan for 15 years, and in that time he had never seen her panic. 30 days. Is that enough? Do-Yan leaned back in his chair. Through the reinforced ceiling above him, he could almost feel the weight of the ocean pressing down. But beneath that ocean, beneath the rock and metal of this hidden base, something else waited. Something the galaxy had never imagined. It's more than enough, he said. He pressed a button on his desk, and a holographic display sprang to life. It showed the Sol system in perfect detail, including dozens of locations that appeared empty to outside observers. But as Do-Yan touched each point, the display revealed what was truly there. Shipyards, weapons platforms, research stations, and ships. So many ships. They think we've spent 18 years begging for scraps, Do-Yan said quietly. They think we've been building cargo vessels and mining drones. They have no idea what we actually are. Sujin moved closer to the display, her eyes moving across the hidden fleet. When do we tell them? Not yet. Let them build their barrier. Let them feel safe. Do-Yan smiled, but there was no humor in it. And then we'll show them what happens when you try to cage humanity. On Earth. The sun was setting over Seoul. President Baekhyunji stood at the window of her office, watching the city lights flicker to life below. Her phone had been ringing constantly since the vote, world leaders demanding answers, citizens demanding action. But she had ignored them all. She was thinking about her grandmother, who had been a little girl when the first alien signals reached Earth. The old woman had told stories about that day, about how the whole world had celebrated, believing that humanity's greatest adventure was about to begin. Instead, they had found a galaxy that saw them as pests, as threats, as something to be contained and controlled. Yunji turned from the window and looked at the folder on her desk. It contained the details of Project Sunrise, humanity's response to a universe that had never wanted them. Should have left us alone, she whispered to the empty room. You should have let us be your friends. She opened the folder and began to read. Outside, the stars were coming out, cold and distant, but not for much longer. The shipyard floated in the shadow of Europa, hidden from the sun by Jupiter's massive bulk. From the outside, it looked like nothing more than an asteroid, a chunk of dead rock drifting through space. But inside, more than 6,000 engineers worked around the clock, building weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Chief Engineer Yoon Hana walked through the main construction bay, her boots clicking against the metal floor. Above her, suspended by gravity fields, the skeleton of a warship took shape. It was the 73rd vessel of humanity's secret fleet, and it would be named the Resolve. Cho Tae-woo hurried to keep up with her, his tablet clutched to his chest. He was young, barely 25, but he was also one of the smartest people Hana had ever worked with. She had recruited him herself from a university in Busan, where he had been designing engine systems that should have been impossible. The power core is ahead of schedule, Tae-woo reported. We should be able to begin integration tests by tomorrow. Hana nodded, but did not slow down. And the shield generators? Installed and calibrated. We ran simulations against Velnorian plasma weapons. The shields held for 47 minutes of continuous fire before failing. Hana stopped walking. She turned to look at Tae-woo, her eyebrows raised. 47 minutes? The standard Velnorian shields fail after 12. Tae-woo allowed himself a small smile. We made some improvements. This was humanity's secret. This was what the Galactic Council had never understood. When they gave humans technology, they expected gratitude and obedience. Instead, they got questions. Why does this work? How can it be better? What happens if we try something different? The Velnorians had given Earth's basic shield technology as a gift, a gesture of welcome to the galactic community. It was old technology, nearly worthless by their standards, designed only to protect ships from asteroid impacts. Human engineers had studied it for 3 years, taking it apart piece by piece, learning every secret it contained. Then they had rebuilt it from scratch and created something new. Hannah resumed walking, leading Taiwu toward the observation deck at the far end of the bay. Through the massive windows, she could see other ships under construction. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, all of them hidden, all of them impossible. The council voted yesterday, Hannah said. Exile. They're building a barrier around the Sol system. Taiwu's smile faded. I heard. My sister called me crying. She thinks we're all going to die. What do you think? Taiwu was quiet for a moment. He looked out at the ships, at the thousands of workers moving like ants across their hulls, at the weapons platforms being assembled in the distance. I think they made a mistake, he said finally. I think they should have destroyed us when they had the chance. Hannah nodded. It was a dark thought, but it was also true. The galaxy had been given two choices: welcome humanity as equals or eliminate them as threats. Instead, they had chosen a third option. They had tried to contain humans, to limit them. To keep them small and weak and dependent. They had no idea how badly that plan had already failed. On Earth, Defense Minister Oh Jung-won was presenting his report to the president's inner cabinet. They met in the bunker beneath Seoul, a room that could survive a direct nuclear strike. Surrounded by screens showing real-time data from across the planet. We have 112 combat-ready vessels, Jung-won said, pointing to the holographic display in the center of the table. 54 destroyers, 31 cruisers, 18 carriers, and 9 dreadnoughts. All of them are equipped with weapons and shields that exceed anything the Council has seen. President Baekun-ji studied the display with tired eyes. She had not slept in 2 days, and the weight of her responsibility pressed down on her like a physical force. And the barrier ships? She asked. Intelligence reports that they're assembling a construction fleet from 12 different species. Approximately 200 vessels, most of them civilian grade. They expect no resistance. They think we're helpless. Foreign Minister Kang Yuna leaned forward. She was the oldest person in the room, her hair completely gray, her face lined with decades of diplomatic experience. If we reveal the fleet, we prove their fears correct. They'll say we were building for war all along. We were building for survival, Jung-won replied. There's a difference, is there? To them? Yoon-ji held up her hand, silencing the argument. The question is not whether we should fight. The question is what happens after we win. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. If we destroy the barrier fleet, we become the monsters they always claimed we were. Every species in the galaxy will unite against us. We might win the first battle, but we'll lose the war. And if we do nothing, Jung-won asked. If we let them build their cage. Yoon-ji stood and walked to the display. She touched it, and the image changed to show Earth, blue and green and beautiful, against the black of space.
Ow.
Then we die slowly instead of quickly. Our population will decline without access to resources beyond our system. Our technology will stagnate without new ideas to learn from. In 3 generations, we'll be exactly what they want. Harmless, forgotten, gone. So we won't do nothing. And we won't attack. We'll do something they never expected. We'll give them a choice. Far from Earth, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Commander Shin Murray stood on the bridge of the Defiance. It was the largest ship in humanity's hidden fleet, a dreadnought nearly 2 kilometers long, carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Around her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. They were monitoring the construction fleet's approach, tracking every ship, analyzing every transmission. They're not even trying to hide, Lieutenant Wang Sunho reported from the sensor station. Their communications are completely unencrypted. They're discussing supply schedules. Recreation time. One captain is complaining about the food on his ship. Murray shook her head slowly. They think this is routine. Just another minor species being put in its place. She thought about her grandmother, who had died believing that humanity would never reach the stars. She thought about her parents, who had spent their lives watching Earth be humiliated by species that considered themselves superior. She thought about her daughter, only 7 years old, who had asked her last week why the aliens didn't like humans. "'Cause they're afraid of us," Murray had told her. "Because we're different from them. Is being different bad?" Murray had hugged her daughter tight. "No, baby. Being different is what makes us special. Now, standing on the bridge of the most powerful warship humanity had ever built, Murray understood just how special they really were. The galaxy had tried to make humans feel small. Instead, they had created something that would never be small again. "How long until the barrier fleet reaches the system edge?" she asked. 11 days, Commander." Murray nodded and turned to look out the main viewport. In the distance, she could see the lights of other ships holding position in the darkness. Her fleet. Humanity's answer to a universe that had rejected them. "Then we wait," she said. "We wait and we watch. And when the time is right, we show them who we really are." The stars burned cold and distant around her. But Murray was not cold. Inside her chest, something hot and bright was growing. It felt like hope. It felt like power. It felt like the beginning of something new. The barrier construction fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system on the 19th day. 217 ships, gathered from 12 different species, carrying enough material to build a wall around humanity's home. They arrived in perfect formation, confident and unhurried, expecting nothing but empty space and a primitive species waiting to be caged. Admiral Chris Thane of the Velnorian Dominion stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Light. His crystalline body glowed with satisfaction as he watched the fleet take position around Neptune's orbit. This was a simple mission. The humans had accepted their fate without protest. There would be no resistance, no complications. In 30 days, the barrier would be complete, and humanity would become nothing more than a footnote in galactic history. "Begin deployment of construction drones," he ordered. "All civilian vessels to secondary positions. I want the first barrier segments operational within 72 hours. "Yes, Admiral," his second officer responded. "Sensors show no human vessels in the area. The system appears completely undefended." Christine made a sound that among his people indicated amusement. "Of course it does. They have nothing to defend with. Their entire fleet could not stop a single one of our cruisers." He turned to watch through the viewport as the first construction drones launched from their carrier ships. They spread out like seeds, each one carrying the materials needed to build a small section of the energy barrier that would seal humanity away forever. Chris Sane had been alive for 300 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He had watched civilizations burn themselves to ash through war, or simply fade away through stagnation. Humans were neither special nor interesting. They were simply another problem to be solved, another threat to be neutralized, or so he believed. 12 million kilometers away, hidden in the darkness between Neptune and the Kuiper Belt, Commander Shin Murray watched the construction fleet through her ship's sensors. Around her, 112 warships held position in complete silence. Running on minimal power, invisible to any scanner the galaxy had ever developed, they're beginning drone deployment, Lieutenant Wong reported quietly. "No indication they've detected us." Murray nodded. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. She had trained for this moment for 15 years. Every simulation, every drill, every sleepless night had been leading to this exact point in time. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. "Passive transmission only." A soft chime indicated the channel was open. Murray took a breath and spoke. "All vessels, this is Commander Shin. For 18 years, we have hidden in the shadows. We have smiled at species that despised us. We have accepted insults and injustice because we were not ready to fight back. But today that changes." She paused, letting her words sink in across the fleet. "In a few moments, we will reveal ourselves. We will show the galaxy what humanity has become. Some of you may be afraid. That is natural. But remember why we built these ships. Remember why we trained? We did not do this for war. We did this for survival. We did this because no one else would protect our home." Murray looked out at the stars, at the distant lights of the construction fleet, at the future that was about to unfold. "All ships power up. Full combat readiness. Let them see us." 112 ships came to life simultaneously. Their shields flared bright blue against the blackness of space. Their weapon systems powered up, filling the electromagnetic spectrum with energy signatures that no one in the galaxy had ever recorded. They moved from hidden positions into visible formation, spreading out in a wall of metal and fire between the construction fleet and the inner system. On the eternal light, Admiral Christhane felt something strange pass through his crystalline body. It took him a moment to identify the sensation. He had not experienced it in nearly 2 centuries. It was fear. "Admiral," his sensor officer shouted, multiple contacts appearing at coordinates 799. Over 100 vessels. Power signatures are ... impossible. They're reading stronger than anything in our database. Christhane stared at the display in front of him. Where there had been empty space moments before, there was now a fleet. A human fleet. Ships of designs he had never seen, radiating power that dwarfed his own flagship. "That cannot be correct," he said. "Humans do not have this technology. They cannot have this technology." "The readings are confirmed, Admiral. Those ships are real." The communication system crackled, and a human voice filled the bridge. It was female. Calm and utterly without fear. "Velnorian Fleet, this is Commander Shin Murray of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered restricted space. You will power down your construction drones and hold position immediately. Any attempt to continue barrier deployment will be considered an act of war." Christhane felt his light fluctuate with shock and anger. "This is Admiral Christhane of the Velnorian Dominion. You have no authority to make demands. The Galactic Council has voted. Earth is to be contained. Your ... Unexpected fleet changes nothing." There was a pause. When the human spoke again, her voice was harder. "Your council voted to imprison 8 billion people without trial. Your council decided that humanity was too dangerous to be free. And yet here we are, Admiral. 112 ships, each one more powerful than anything you brought to cage us. If we were truly as dangerous as you claimed, your fleet would already be debris." Christhane could not find words to respond. "But we are not here to destroy you," the human continued. "We are here to deliver a message. Go back to your council. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that humanity will not be caged. Tell them that if they want peace, they will need to negotiate as equals. And tell them that the next time they send ships to our system without invitation, we will not be so patient." On the bridge of the Defiance, Murray cut the transmission and turned to her crew. They were staring at her with expressions of wonder and pride. "Lieutenant Wong, are they responding?" Sun Ho checked his displays. "The construction drones have stopped moving, Commander. The fleet is holding position. I'm detecting high-frequency transmissions back toward Velnorian space. They're reporting what they've seen." Murray allowed herself a small smile. "Good. Let them report." She walked to the main viewport and looked out at the distant lights of the construction fleet. 18 years of hiding. 18 years of being treated like children. 18 years of watching humanity be pushed into corners and told to be grateful for scraps. That was over now, on Earth. President Beak watched the confrontation through real-time satellite feeds. Beside her, Admiral Kim stood with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. "They're not retreating," he observed. "But they're not attacking either. They're confused, scared. They need time to understand what they're facing, and what happens when they do understand." Beak turned away from the screens. Her eyes were tired, but her voice was strong. "Then they'll have a choice to make. The same choice we're offering them now. Accept us as equals, or try to destroy us." She paused. "I know which choice I would make." Kim nodded slowly. "And if they choose war, then we'll win," Beak said simply. "But I don't think it will come to that. Fear is a powerful motivator, but so is self-preservation. The Council isn't stupid. They'll see the truth eventually." "What truth?" Beak looked back at the screens, at the fleet of ships that humanity had built in secret, at the future that was now within reach. They never should have underestimated us. That humanity was always destined for more than a cage. That we were never the threat they feared. She smiled, but it was sad. We were the opportunity they missed. Outside, the stars burned on, indifferent to the drama unfolding beneath them. But for the first time in 18 years, humanity was not indifferent in return. They were awake, they were ready, and they were just getting started. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called within 6 hours of Admiral Christhane's report. For the first time in over 2,000 years, the Great Chamber was filled with chaos. Delegates shouted over each other. Accusations flew like weapons. And beneath it all, there was a current of fear so strong that even the most ancient species could feel it in their bones. The Velnorian, speaker, tried to restore order, but his crystal voice was drowned out by the noise. The Keth were clicking their shells in agitation. The Moravi were flashing their bioluminescent skin in patterns of distress. Even the normally calm Veshan observers were speaking rapidly among themselves. Then the doors opened, and the chamber fell silent. Ambassador Park Jisoo walked in first, her face calm and composed. Behind her came President Bikunji, wearing the formal robes of Earth's highest office. Admiral Kim Doyon followed in his military uniform, his chest decorated with medals that no alien species had ever seen. And last came Chief Engineer Yoon Hana, carrying a small data tablet as if it contained the secrets of the universe, which, in a way, it did. They walked to the human platform, which was still positioned at the lowest level of the chamber. But something was different now. When Jisoo had stood here 19 days ago, she had been alone and powerless. Now, even though they were still in the same humble position, the entire chamber seemed to lean away from them. The High Speaker recovered his composure first. The human delegation was not invited to this session. President Beek smiled. It was not a threatening smile, but it was not a friendly one either. We invited ourselves. I hope you don't mind. After all, you did vote to imprison our entire species. We felt we had earned a voice in the discussion. You have demonstrated aggressive military capability. The Keth representative clicked. You have threatened a peaceful construction fleet. You have confirmed every fear that led to the Exile vote. Beek stepped forward, and despite herself, the Keth delegate took a step back. Let me tell you what we have done. We revealed a fleet that we have been building for 12 years. We told that fleet to hold position and not fire. We gave Admiral Christhane's ships every opportunity to withdraw peacefully. Not a single shot was fired. Not a single being was harmed. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate she could see. If we were the monsters you claimed, your construction fleet would be debris. Instead, they are on their way home, unharmed. If we wanted war, we could have it. We could take this fight to your homeworlds, your colonies, your shipyards. Our ships are faster than yours. Our weapons are stronger. Our shields are better. She paused. But we don't want war. We never wanted war. We wanted to be your partners. Your friends, your equals. The chamber was completely silent now. Admiral Kim stepped forward. For 18 years you gave us scraps, outdated technology, broken equipment. You thought you were being generous. You thought you were keeping us controlled. He shook his head slowly. Instead, you gave us puzzles to solve. Every piece of technology you shared, we studied. We learned. We improved. Your basic shields became our advanced barriers. Your primitive engines became our quantum drives. You gave us seeds and we grew a forest. Chief Engineer Yoon Hana activated her tablet and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the hidden shipyards, the research stations, the weapons platforms that humanity had built in secret. It showed the fleet in all its power, 112 ships that could stand against anything the galaxy had to offer. This is what humanity has become, Hannah said. Not because we wanted to threaten you, but because you left us no other choice. You treated us like children. You told us we were primitive. You voted to lock us in a cage and throw away the key. So we built our own future, without your help and without your permission. The Velnorian High Speaker floated forward, his light pulsing with complex emotions. You expect us to simply accept this? To pretend that you have not been deceiving us for over a decade? We expect you to recognize reality, Jisoo answered. The deception is over. The truth is in front of you. Humanity has the power to fight. We also have the restraint to choose peace. The question is, what do you choose? A delegate from the Decion Coalition rose from her platform. She was tall and slender, with silver skin that seemed to flow like liquid. Unlike most of the chamber, she did not seem afraid. She seemed ... curious. I have a question for the human delegation, she said. Your technology clearly exceeds our own in several areas. Your ships are more advanced than anything we have developed, and yet you have been with us for only 18 years. How is this possible? President Beak turned to face her. Because we asked different questions. Please explain. When you developed shield technology, you asked, how can we protect ourselves? When we received that technology, we asked, why does it work? What are its limits? How can it be better? We did not accept your answers as final. We treated them as starting points. The Decian tilted her head. You are saying that we have become stagnant? I am saying that you have become comfortable. For 10,000 years, the major species of this galaxy have maintained peace through balance. No one attacks because everyone is equally powerful. No one innovates because there is no need. You've been standing still for so long that you forgot how to walk. Gestured at the holographic display still floating. In the center of the chamber, humanity. Arrived 18 years ago with nothing but curiosity and determination. We had no ancient technology to rely on. We had no established power to protect us. All we had was the drive to learn, to grow, to become more than we were. And in less than 2 decades, we built this. She lowered her hand and looked around the chamber one more time. You can fear us for that. You can hate us for that. You can try to destroy us for that. But you cannot change it. Humanity is awake now. We are aware of our own potential, and we will never go back to sleep. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the Decian delegate began to clap. It was a strange sound in the alien chamber, a human gesture that she had clearly learned from studying Earth's culture. But the meaning was clear. Other delegates began to join her. Not all of them. Not even most of them. But enough. The High Speaker's light flickered with what might have been uncertainty. What do you propose? He asked finally. Jisoo stepped forward. We propose a new vote. Not on exile, but on integration. Full membership in the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. Equal trade access. Equal diplomatic standing. A seat on the Security Committee, that is ... unprecedented. So are we. The debate lasted for 7 hours. Species that had voted for exile now scrambled to justify changing their positions. Old alliances shifted. New agreements were made in hurried whispers. Through it all, the human delegation stood silent and patient, watching the galaxy rearrange itself around them. When the final vote was called, the result was 41 in favor of full integration. 6 opposed. President Beak allowed herself one moment of visible emotion. She closed her eyes and let out a breath she had been holding for 19 days. Thank you, she said to the chamber. You have made the right choice. And I promise you this, humanity will not forget what happened here. We will not forget the fear and the distrust. But we will also not forget this moment of courage, when the galaxy chose partnership over conflict. She turned to leave, then paused and looked back. We could have been your enemies. You gave us every reason to be. Instead, we choose to be your teachers, your students, your friends. I hope in time you will understand just how lucky we all are that it worked out this way. The human delegation walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a galaxy that would never be the same, and somewhere in the darkness of space, 112 ships stood guard over a small blue planet, waiting for orders that would never come. The war was over before it began. Humanity had won. 1 year had passed since the vote that changed everything. Ambassador Park. Jisoo stood on the observation deck of the Unity, humanity's first diplomatic dreadnought, watching Earth turn slowly in the darkness below. The ship was enormous, nearly 3 kilometers long, designed not for war, but for peace. It carried diplomats instead of soldiers, laboratories instead of weapons bays, conference rooms instead of combat centers, It was a symbol of what humanity wanted to become. Commander Shin Murray walked up beside her, still wearing her fleet uniform. She had been offered promotions, medals, political positions. She had turned them all down. She preferred to stay where she belonged, on the bridge of a starship, watching the stars. Beautiful, isn't it? Jisoo said, gesturing toward the planet below. Murray nodded. I never get tired of seeing it. All those billions of people down there, living their lives, dreaming their dreams. They have no idea how close we came to losing everything. Some of them do. The ones who lived through the fear, the uncertainty, they remember. And the children. The ones born after the vote? Jisoo smiled softly. They'll grow up in a different galaxy. They'll never know what it felt like to be the outsiders, the unwanted ones. They'll take equality for granted. She paused. I think that's a good thing. Below them, Earth continued its endless rotation. Lights sparkled on the night side, cities full of people who were finally free to dream of the stars without fear. In the years since the vote, everything had changed. Human ships now traveled freely throughout the galaxy. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers in facilities that had once been forbidden. Human culture spread like wildfire. Their music and art and stories finding audiences among species that had never known such things existed. And perhaps most importantly, humans had started asking questions again. Not just about technology, but about everything. Why did the galaxy organize itself this way? Why had progress stopped for so many species? What possibilities were being ignored simply because no one thought to explore them? The answers were beginning to reshape everything. On the planet below, President Bikunji was preparing to give her final address. After 18 months in office, during the most difficult period in human history, she had decided not to seek another term. She was tired. She had earned rest. But before she stepped down, she had one more thing to say. My fellow humans, she began, standing in the Great Hall of the United Nations. 1 year ago, the galaxy voted to lock us away. They called us dangerous. They called us a threat. They were afraid of what we might become. Looking out at the assembled delegates from every nation on Earth. What today? I want to talk about what we actually became. The screens behind her lit up with images. Human doctors working in alien hospitals. Human engineers helping to rebuild aging infrastructure on distant worlds. Human teachers sharing knowledge with species that had forgotten how to learn. We became partners. We became helpers. We became friends. Not because we had to, but because it was right. Because despite everything they did to us, we understood something important. Hate is easy, but it accomplishes nothing. Revenge feels good, but it builds nothing. Only cooperation, only trust, only patience can create a future worth living in. She took a deep breath. Some of you have asked me if I regret the peaceful path. If I wish we had used our fleet to punish those who tried to cage us, the answer is no. Because the greatest victory is not destroying your enemies. The greatest victory is turning your enemies into friends. In her office at Shipyard 7, Chief Engineer Yoon Hana was already working on the next generation of ships. But these vessels were different from anything she had built before. They were not warships. They were exploration vessels, designed to travel farther and faster than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Her assistant, Cho Tai-woo, was reviewing the designs on his tablet. He was no longer young. A year of constant work had aged him. But his eyes still sparkled with the same curiosity that had driven him since childhood. The range on these engines is incredible, he said. We could reach the galactic core in weeks. We could explore regions that no species has visited in 10,000 years. Hannah nodded, not looking up from her calculations. That's the point. The galaxy has been standing still for too long. Someone needs to start moving again. Why us? Hannah finally looked at him. Because we're the only ones who remember how. The other species have been comfortable for so long that they've forgotten what it means to be curious. They've forgotten the joy of discovering something new, of pushing past boundaries, of asking why instead of accepting what is. She turned back to her work. We're going to remind them, on the far side of the galaxy, in a star system that had not been visited in 8,000 years. Something was waiting. It was ancient and patient. A mystery that the old species had abandoned long ago, because solving it seemed impossible. Humanity would find it within 5 years. They would ask questions no one had thought to ask. They would make discoveries that would change everything again, but that was still in the future. For now, on the observation deck of the Unity, Ambassador Park Jisoo and Commander Shin Murray watched Earth together and talked about what was to come. "Do you think they'll ever truly trust us?" Murray asked. "The other species, I mean. Do you think they'll ever stop being afraid?" Jisoo considered the question carefully. Fear is hard to overcome. It's built into biology, into instinct. Some species will always see us as a threat no matter what we do. That doesn't bother you? It used to. When I first became an ambassador, I thought my job was to make everyone love us. If I just worked hard enough, if I just said the right things, eventually they would accept us completely. Shu shook her head. I was naive. And now? Now I understand that acceptance isn't the goal. The goal is to be worthy of acceptance, whether or not it comes. To act with honor, even when no one is watching. To help, even when no one thanks us. To be the species we want to be, regardless of how others see us. Murray was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "My grandmother would have liked you," she said. "She always believed that humanity was meant for something special, that we had a purpose beyond just surviving." "What do you think that purpose is?" Murray looked out at the stars, at the infinite darkness filled with infinite possibility. "I think our purpose is to remind the universe that nothing is impossible, that progress never has to stop, that every limit is just a challenge waiting to be overcome." She paused. "I think our purpose is to wake everyone else up." Jisoo nodded slowly. "Then we'd better get started. There's a lot of universe out there, and most of it has been sleeping for far too long." They stood together in silence, two humans looking out at a galaxy that had tried to cage them and failed. Below, Earth turned peacefully. Around them, ships came and went, carrying people and ideas and dreams to every corner of known space, and beyond the borders of what was known. Countless mysteries waited. Secrets buried in forgotten star systems, technologies abandoned because no one had the patience to unlock them. Questions that had never been asked because asking seemed foolish. Humanity would find them all. Not because they wanted to conquer or control, but because they could not help themselves. Curiosity was in their blood. Wonder was in their souls. The need to know, to understand, to explore, was as fundamental to them as breathing. The galaxy had tried to contain that fire. Instead, they had only made it burn brighter. Now that fire was spreading, reaching out to every corner of existence, bringing light to places that had been dark for millennia. The old species had called humanity dangerous. They were right, but not in the way they had feared. Humanity was dangerous to stagnation, dangerous to complacency, dangerous to the belief that progress had an endpoint. And as the sun rose over Earth, marking the first day of humanity's true future among the stars, one thing was absolutely clear: the galaxy would never be the same again.